Hey guys, welcome to a quick overview and summary of what is a business model, a digital business model, a summary of our last 7 videos and articles that are freely available. Just a quick one so you can decide to look into some of them or all of them hopefully. So we had to start with what a digital business model is not, because basically there's an onslaught of material online that categorizes it based on the monetization model or based on value capture. So the most common ones that you find, let's say, are the subscription business model, freemium and whatever. But these are largely pricing models. If take just the subscription business model, the 2 biggest ones are Netflix and Microsoft Office. And if you were to categorize them based on the revenue model, they have the same. But if you look at value creation, well, they have really very, very few things in common. As we all know. And if you were to add other things, let's say your online newspaper that you may have subscribed to, or maybe you're getting your shaving material from the Dollar Shave Club, or all sorts of other things, Amazon Prime deliveries, all of those are based on the subscription business model. So apparently all of those, if you categorized it that way, they would all do the same thing, run the same business model. Well, they do not, right? We all agree on that one. So this categorization is not a good idea. So all of these, if we look here at the business model canvas, we have value creation and value capture. And what you find online is basically the revenue models, but they're just called business models. And we need to know about revenue models, absolutely, but we should not call them business models because, as we will see, we will have very little transferable insights. So in our first articles, we have proposed a better way of categorizing business models, digital business models based on the value creation aspects. And that is in relation to what we've seen also by other professional people, investors. For example, the MSCI and the S&P Dow Jones Index have categorized businesses based on value creation, and they've called it the Global Industry Classification Standard. And they've done that for all sorts of businesses. And the majority of those 153 verticals that they have are traditional businesses. If you do the same for digital businesses only, so here are the 11 verticals that we find. And what's the value of doing this? So let's take the asset and service sharing vertical. So here are just a couple of dozen businesses. And pretty much, though, as we will see in a very brief moment, there's 2 fundamental business models under it, platform and linear business model. But by and large, all of those that are a platform business model in this list, and there is thousands more within this vertical, they all have the same value creation aspects. So they all have to attract a supply side participant, verify them, ensure truthful description of services. So think of Airbnb, where there has to be truthful description of the houses, Upwork or Fiverr, where the services have to be described truthfully, etc. They need to be categorized, made searchable, browsable, etc. There's a matching algorithms, etc. Even though there is so many different ones, including Uber and Deliveroo, DoorDash and Airtasker, etc., etc., they all have these steps in common. And that's already a great way to learn about this vertical, right? So by learning about a few of these things, we all of a sudden, literally can learn about thousands of digital business models at once within this vertical and even to some extent outside of it. So this is why we want to categorize businesses based on value creation. There's a lot more commonality than calling them subscription or commission business model. Now, before we move on, if you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, as we'll have more things coming up, free stuff. So I already mentioned within each of the verticals, we can have at a fundamental level, linear and platform business models. How do they differ? So the platform business model, the name is known, but still a lot of people confuse the details, and the details are very deep. I'll just show the top layer. So we have a supply side and a demand side, and the platform intermediates between them. The platform and the supply side are very heavily involved in value creation and delivery for the demand side. So on the iPhone, for example, the ecosystem of apps makes a very big portion of the value for the app users or the phone users. Same on Google search, the website. The search is a great value, but the website gives you the main value, which is the knowledge, for example, and so on. So it's the same, all of those. And the linear business model, there's a detachment of the supplier with the customer, because do you know who's building the screen of your iPhone, or the microchips inside, or the buttons, or the Wi-Fi transceiver, and I bet you don't. And yeah, so this is the main difference. And in most of these 11 verticals, you'll find both business models. Some, like SaaS, are almost exclusively linear. Some are almost exclusively platform. Well, and you find both in any case across most of them. And now let's go back to the asset and service sharing vertical. So here in blue are the platforms, and in pink or purple are the linear business models. And what we're saying is, if you look at the business model canvas, you will find a lot of similarity among the linear business models, even if they're very different, like bike sharing or car sharing or office sharing, etc., etc. There's a lot of similarities that you can, if you learn about, let's say, bike sharing, you already have learned a fair bit about all the other ones. So you can get started with all of the ones that you see here: space sharing, remote working platforms, things on the go sharing, etc. And if you learn about the platform business model within asset and service sharing, let's say you learn about Uber, you can transfer the knowledge to food and goods delivery platforms, to service sharing platforms, host-provided events platforms, and. So it's a great way of distinguishing by value and by these fundamental types of business models. And we have described them, as I said. There's free articles that you can find and free videos. Let's look the next level down. There's so-called network effects that play a very big role in the platform business model. There's also network effects that play a role in the linear business model, but they are different. So indirect network effects play a big role in platform business models. And here's the business model canvas. We've just highlighted the 3 areas of interest. So the platform just intermediates between riders and drivers. So for example, if in a certain area there are a lot of drivers, then the waiting times for the riders are lower, so you'll get more demand, prices go down to something that is acceptable for the drivers, and that then in turn gets more drivers on board, because more people are willing to use Uber, because idle times are low or waiting times are low, and prices are moderate. And for these guys, it means low idle times, so it's more worthwhile. So within 1 hour, they can make more money than if they have to drive around like a taxi empty for 10, 15 minutes. So that's how it works at a very basic level. And then we have an article where we've compared, where we are pointing out that search transaction and post-transaction costs play a very big role and play together with network effects. This is something that you may not have even heard, even though it's so important. So we have compared Getaround to Uber. At a basic level, many people thought that Getaround could get to a similar market cap as Uber. But the difference as we speak is 3 million%. These guys have a market cap of 6 million, and these guys 180 billion. These guys have been delisted from the Nasdaq and are fighting for survival, and these guys are flourishing. And it's at the basic level, it really depends on search costs and how those interplay with the indirect network effects. And take a look at the article. And yeah, I think that will be quite an eye-opener. The main thing is, when you start as an innovator, the early decisions that you have to make, they will put you on a trajectory, and you'll only find out 1, 2, 5, or 10 years later what is behind it. And we will argue that you can, if you know about these concepts, have a better clue up front in which markets you really are. And yeah, take a look. There's complexities, but very fascinating ones. Then the next one, so these are the 11 verticals again, and we wanted to give you, as you may have noticed, for example, in the asset and service sharing, there's at least 3 sub-verticals, and within those there's about 10 sub-verticals, categories of business models. But we didn't want to give you hundreds of types of business models. So in another article, we've just shown the 2 biggest ones for each of the 11 verticals, and we've described them. Take a look at them. It's very interesting. You can learn the typical ways of monetizing and value creating. And if we take those, here are our 11 verticals again, and we put them into the business model canvas, we can find similar patterns of those. Now, I'm not saying that the business model canvas is the best tool for digital businesses, but it is still the most common tool, so we've done that. And there's one article that does it at the high level, and yeah, one article for each of these that describes these elements from a digital business model perspective. This is all free material. Then within our premium products, we have done the other way around also. For each of the 22 verticals, or for most of them at least, we have a canvas and sub-verticals, I shall say, where you see the main patterns and tactics. And there are over 250 tactics, including monetization tactics, that you can find there. And that will teach you about each of the sub-verticals and playbooks that there are. And that you can then use to develop new ideas and combine them. So there are people going, trying to be the next big search engine. Well, it may work, but it is probably more difficult than what, for example, Doximity does. And Doximity stands, in my mind, for many, many other startups who are using a playbook of combining ideas from many of those 22 sub-verticals that we've seen. So according to themselves, Doximity is a telemedicine platform combined with other aspects, and they got 80% of all US doctors, and they have a networking aspect like LinkedIn. They have a search and news and scheduling aspect like Google, signatures like DocuSign, etc., and Zoom for telemedicine. And all up, the three major markets that they're playing in have a market size of 18 billion. Their own market cap sits at 10 billion currently, and they're flourishing. And by looking at the tactics and knowing about these 4 different verticals, sub-verticals that you see here, that's how you can combine it. And it's an amazing way, and I see a lot of businesses that basically do the same. They're not going head-on for LinkedIn or for Google. I mean, good luck, or Zoom. That's just not going to happen that easily. But if you have a social or, let's say, professional network that is centered around doctors, then you can have a very good marketing offering for pharmaceutical companies, because 80 to 90% of all pharmaceutical decisions are made by doctors, right? So that then will work better than LinkedIn in that respect. So yeah, that's a great way to use the knowledge that you gain through all the things that we've shown to you. And then last but not least, we've shown you the top 10 digital business models by market cap. So then you have 10 times 5 key value creation aspects and value capture aspects, and learning from many different ones, plus learning from the biggest ones in the verticals, we believe is a great way of getting your learning started, getting ideas. And once you know the ideas, you can follow them, and you can have educated hypotheses of which ones to break and change. You know, you don't always need to stick with the rules, but you should know the rules before you break them, because then you can do that much more in a much more targeted way. So check out the free articles, check out the premium stuff, whatever you like. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks very much, guys.